Man, I had to go outside and go for a walk before I did this video to cool off. And I'm still pissed off. I'm still pissed. This was straight up sabotage. Stephanie White, you are a bum. Aaliyah Boston, you are even more of a bum. You are a $6 million piece of garbage out there. Your ass can't make a layup. You refuse to pass the ball to Caitlin Clark. You stink. You stink. You've been intentionally not passing the ball to Caitlin Clark for the last 7-8 games. We've been watching and counting. I've been watching your ass not pass her the ball. You can't make a layup to save your life. You just as garbage at layups.
She turned her back and walked straight away from the bench as the arena erupted into chaos. Caitlin Clark finally hit her breaking point, fully unraveling after an agonizing 91-85 collapse against the Dallas Wings. Head coach Stephanie White stood frozen on the sideline, visibly stunned by the fury unfolding before her. This was not simply a bad road loss to a team that had dropped 8 of its last 11 games. It was the explosive climax of an escalating internal war that had been building behind closed doors for weeks, one ready to tear the entire franchise apart.
Kelsey Mitchell in it. She played a hell of a game, but this thing was 100% about Kelsey Mitchell, and I think it had everything to do with them seeing Caitlin Clark climbing that MVP ladder, and they said, hell no, we are sabotaging this, and that is exactly what happened. The Indiana Fever lose to a team in the Dallas Wings that lost 8 out of their last 11 games. You could thank Stephanie White, who wanted to make it all about Kelsey Mitchell. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit the bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated, man. I am disgusted with the Indiana Fever. I am disgusted. Stephanie White, get your bum ass in the trash.
The fracture on the court was impossible to miss from the opening possession. White drew up the first play exclusively for Kelsey Mitchell, bypassing Clark entirely as a primary playmaker. Clark ran the set as scripted, delivering an unselfish bounce pass that sent Mitchell straight to the free throw line. But that single sequence set a troubling precedent for the entire evening. Rather than balancing the offense, the coaching staff doubled down on an isolated game plan, an early signal that Clark was being pushed out of the driver's seat entirely.
Be greatly appreciated, man. I am disgusted with the Indiana Fever. I am disgusted. Stephanie White, get your bum ass in the trash. Get your bum ass in the trash. You are a fucking bum of a coach. You are terrible. You are terrible. You mean to tell me the very first play of the game was ran for Kelsey Mitchell? Caitlin Clark threw her a bounce pass. Kelsey Mitchell went to turn the corner, got fouled, went to the free throw line. From that point on, every single play in the first half was for Kelsey Mitchell. Nobody else could establish a rhythm because you did nothing else.
Analysts quickly picked up on a strategy that looked deliberately designed to freeze out the generational rookie. Clark was climbing the league's MVP ladder fast, gaining national momentum with every dominant performance. Yet the offense deployed against Dallas seemed built specifically to shut down her rhythm, running everything through Mitchell at the expense of team flow. The Fever systematically dismantled the very dynamic that made them dangerous. The tension on the hardwood thickened with every passing possession.
Sophie Cunningham to get a shot from 3. You like by the time people got looks, they were in no rhythm. There was no rhythm by the time they actually got looks at the rim. Aaliyah Boston is trash. She does not set screens. You got people tackling Caitlin Clark. Aaliyah Boston, big, soft, sorry ass, don't do nothing. She's a big, soft, sorry piece of if you ask me out there. Aaliyah Boston is ass. $6 million of ass juice out there. She ain't did nothing. Got dominated by Jessica Shepard. Aaliyah Boston, get your sorry ass in the trash too. Go on. Get your sorry ass in the trash.
The statistical gap through the first 2 quarters exposed just how deep the dysfunction ran. Indiana didn't run a single pick and roll or ball screen for Clark until 15 seconds remained in the second quarter. Consider the absurdity of it. The most electrifying playmaker in modern basketball standing idle on the perimeter without a single off-ball screen until the third quarter. It neutered her scoring threat and left her watching the offense from the outside. The frustration inside Clark was building toward a boiling point. Straight up disgraceful.
Straight up bum. Stephanie White, you are the biggest piece of garbage, biggest piece of trash out there. Take a look at this. I'm glad. Look, Caitlin Clark is turning her back on Stephanie White. She's over it. Can we end this thing at the end of the season? Shout out to Kelsey. You played a good game. We're going to get into that. I want this thing broken up by the end of the season. You can't afford both. Pick one and let's move on. At this point, I'd rather y'all keep Kelsey, Stephanie, and AB together in Indiana, and let's let Caitlin go elsewhere. Can we go elsewhere, please? I just want to get the hell away from here. I want to get away from these weirdos. I want to get away from this sabotaging organization. I want to get away from everything. Take a look at this.
Stephanie White seemed completely blind to the chemistry collapsing right in front of her. Cameras repeatedly caught her barking instructions at Clark, needling her during dead ball situations without offering any real schematic support. Instead of adjusting the offense to free up her star guard, White grew visibly irritated whenever the ball actually found its way to Clark. The body language between coach and superstar deteriorated in real time, exposing a rift no diplomatic press conference could hide anymore.
Look at her. Look at her. She don't want to hear it no more. Now look at Stephanie White when Caitlin Clark has the ball right here. She don't even want Caitlin to have the ball. She want Kelsey to have the ball. You see that reaction from the coach? You see that? They hate each other, and it's okay. I'll be glad when this thing is over. I will be glad when this thing is over. Get Caitlin Clark the hell away from this team. Get her the hell out of here, man. Caitlin Clark don't want nothing to do with Stephanie White, and Stephanie White don't want nothing to do with Caitlin Clark, which is fine. Can we stop this whole kumbaya thing, this fake thing? Stop standing up for...
The breakdown looked even worse in the front court, in the passing patterns between Clark and her bigs. Aaliyah Boston, a centerpiece earning a hefty salary, repeatedly refused to execute basic handoffs with Clark on the perimeter. Observers tracked multiple sequences where Boston would start toward Clark, then suddenly pivot away at the last second and force the ball to Mitchell instead. The pattern repeated throughout the game, leaving Clark stranded without momentum while defenders trapped her freely, with no fear of being punished inside.
Y'all had to go Kate for her at the podium. Y'all lost to a team that lost 8 out of their last 11 games. Caitlin Clark didn't play well. You shot 1 free throw. That shows me you had a lack of aggression. I felt like you checked out in the second quarter, to be honest. I watched you check out. They ran everything for Kelsey Mitchell. You came down the court. You wasn't even looking for no ball screens no more because you knew they wasn't coming. And you know once you pass the ball, you're never getting the ball back. You know that. If we all know it, you know it too. You know Aaliyah Boston don't give you the ball when you give it to her. You know when you go for the handoff with Aaliyah Boston, she's going to do this and then go the opposite way and give it to Kelsey. You know.
Boston's failure to provide real physical protection on screens left Clark exposed to brutal contact. Dallas defenders were practically tackling her on the perimeter, and Boston offered little resistance to create separation. Worse, Clark kept feeding her high-percentage looks at the rim that Boston repeatedly failed to convert. That lack of interior presence let Dallas forward Jessica Shepard dominate the paint, exposing just how soft Indiana's front court had become.
Game plan. Every game has been that. This girl body just shut down the last game, just like it did in the playoffs last year. And she plays 35 minutes. But she played well with her opportunities. They made it her a focal point. They made it a point to get her established. They made it a point to get Kelsey a rhythm. And when she got that rhythm, she kept it going. They never made it a point to get anybody else a rhythm. Sophie Cunningham, 0-4 from 3. By the time Sophie Cunningham got a look at the rim, the game was almost over. She had no rhythm. No rhythm. Monique Billings sucks. The biggest crock of dog shit for $800,000. I don't know how she's getting 8. She sucks. Monique Billings.
By the midpoint of the second quarter, Clark's demeanor had visibly transformed. Realizing the offense was deliberately running away from her, she disengaged from the flow entirely. No longer hunting screens she knew would never come, fully aware that once the ball left her hands, it wasn't coming back. The explosive energy that defines her game gave way to cold, calculated detachment. She had mentally checked out after recognizing the game being played around her. The box score told the story of the damage. Clark finished with just 10 points, 9 assists, and 4 rebounds on a dismal 4 of 15 shooting night, including 2 of 8 from 3. Most telling of all, she attempted a single free throw the entire game, proof of how completely the game plan stripped away her signature aggression, even when she tried to force the issue in the third quarter. Her rhythm had been wrecked by quarters of forced inactivity. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell put up gaudy individual numbers. 37 points on 9 of 18 shooting, a perfect 15 for 15 from the line. To casual viewers, it looked like an extraordinary scoring exhibition that kept the team competitive. But insiders understood the production came directly at the expense of team harmony and offensive balance. The entire approach was warped around feeding Mitchell to sustain an individual streak, leaving every other contributor stranded without rhythm. The collateral damage spread across the roster. Sharpshooter Sophie Cunningham went scoreless, missing all 4 of her three-point attempts simply because she never touched the ball in rhythm. By the time role players got looks late in the shot clock, the game was already gone. Rotation pieces like Monique Billings struggled to make any impact. A clear sign of how broken an offense becomes when 4 players are reduced to spectators. On the other end, Dallas capitalized ruthlessly on Indiana's internal friction. Paige Buchers poured in 32 points, attacking the Fever's fractured defensive rotations with total confidence. Jessica Shepard was historic, shooting 10 of 11 in the first half alone before finishing with 26 points and 8 rebounds. Despite having lost 8 of their previous 11 games, Dallas played with total unity, thoroughly exposing a Fever roster crumbling from within. The emotional climax came during a tense timeout late in the second half, as Stephanie White stepped toward Clark to deliver another round of sideline criticism. What Clark did next was stunning. She turned her back on her head coach, threw her hands up, and walked away toward the end of the bench. The contempt and breakdown in communication were unmistakable. The sideline went silent as teammates looked on, aware a line had just been crossed. That confrontation shattered the illusion of unity the organization had spent months curating. Clark had dutifully defended coaching decisions in press conferences, playing the consummate professional despite questionable rotations. But her public refusal to even engage with White proved the facade was dead. The mutual distrust had reached a boiling point neither coach nor cornerstone could hide from the cameras anymore. Front office insiders are now sounding the alarm over what looks like a serious leadership failure. White was brought in to elevate this roster into title contention by maximizing Clark's playmaking. Instead, her rigid schemes and questionable player management have alienated the most valuable asset in the sport. Decisions that undermine a generational talent in pursuit of isolated stats amount to organizational mismanagement that can't continue. The friction between the backcourt stars has reached an unsustainable point. Mitchell's scoring ability is undeniable, but an offense can't function with 2 dominant guards pulling in opposite philosophical directions. The current setup creates constant structural tension and boxes the front office into a corner. Eventually, they'll have to choose between the 2 competing visions. Compounding the crisis is the lack of accountability up front. Boston's contract demands an elite 2-way standard befitting the league's top players. Instead, her inability to finish easy looks at the rim or set solid screens has crippled the team's half-court execution. When a starting center can't capitalize on elite playmaking, it compounds the frustration until it breaks the offense entirely. The loss to Dallas marks a dangerous turning point that could derail Indiana's postseason hopes. Dropping a game to a struggling opponent is bad enough. Doing it while airing this much internal division is worse. The body language throughout the fourth quarter showed players operating in isolation rather than as a unit. If the coaching staff can't command the locker room's respect, the season risks unraveling. Fans across the league have reacted furiously, demanding sweeping changes from ownership down. Social media lit up with breakdowns of every ignored cut, every bypassed passing lane, and the moment Clark walked away from White. The consensus points to a broken system suffocating the league's biggest star, and pressure on ownership to fix it is mounting fast. Clark's visible exhaustion after the game told a deeper story than one loss. She's carrying the weight of the league's spotlight while battling what looks like schematic sabotage from her own staff. That kind of scrutiny becomes unbearable when your own teammates won't get you the ball. The toll of being isolated inside her own system was written on her face as she left the floor. The front office now faces a crisis demanding immediate action from ownership. Letting a coach alienate a franchise superstar is an unforgivable mistake that could shape the organization's trajectory for years. If White can't adapt her philosophy to prioritize Clark's vision, difficult personnel calls need to happen now. The luxury of waiting this out ended with the Dallas meltdown. The Fever stand at a defining crossroads. Either the organization fully commits to building around Clark's talent with a coaching staff aligned to match it, or they risk driving away the biggest draw in modern basketball. What happened against Dallas wasn't a bad night. It was a declaration that the current setup is broken beyond repair. When the final buzzer sounded, it signaled far more than a 6-point loss in the standings. It exposed a war of egos, deeply flawed tactical choices, and a franchise cornerstone who has officially had enough of being sidelined. If Stephanie White and Fever leadership ignore this wake-up call, the fallout will reshape the landscape of the sport. The real battle in Indiana has only just begun, and it's about to get much bigger.